What's happening to us?
My daughter just turned 6 2 weeks ago.
Mom?
Whatever's happening to us is happening very fast.
You have wrinkles. There's something wrong with this beach.
And this was not the movie to see the day before I leave before my Hawaiian vacation.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Did you shoot chronologically? Because I'm curious, like you must have had a great script supervisor who kept track, like not only of where these actors are in their aging process externally, but internally.
Well, we had an amazing crew. My first AD was just a genius at keeping track of everything. But this is how we did it. It takes place in one day. So every single day we shot 3 different parts of the script. So we'd shoot the beginning in the morning, the middle of the script in the middle of the day, and the end of the script at the end of the day every day. So we would jump. You'd jump 30 pages, and shoot it so that the sun was in the right place at the right time to create this feeling of a regular day, of a single day. So that was the trickiest part of it because they're different actors and prosthetics and the ocean's in a different place. There's 2 high tides a day and all of that stuff had to be thought of and calculated. So essentially the answer is yes and no. Each one was chronological, but we did it 3 separate lanes of time.
Where did you start? Did you cast like Alex and Thomason and sort of build out from there? Or
That's correct.
Oh, really? Okay.
That's correct. Yeah, I chose what age to build off of and then essentially risk the others because then you have to find people that are like them. And so for me, I picked the age of 17, 18 to 30, that age range, whoever the actors were that are playing that age range is who I'm going to go get. And then we'll cast off of them. And that was Thomason, that was Alex Wolff, that was Eliza Scanlon. So that group of 3, and then we'd build off of those.
Hey, have you seen my children?
Mom? I'm right here.
There's so much talk now about diversity, both in front of, behind the camera. And you were really ahead of your time in that, in both respects. Are you happy those conversations are taking place now? Or is there a little part of you that is like, hey, remember me?
It's funny you should say that. I always joke. I'm like, I was around before everybody was woke. So this was like, they were still asleep. They were still asleep when I was around. It was like, oh yeah, but now I'm like grandfathered into the pre-woke era. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm Indian. You guys know that? I'm Indian. And so it was like one of those things of like realization. And I'm so happy where we are. And you can even see in the movie Old, I felt free enough to have the lead characters play their accents and have a very diverse cast from around the world. And they're not playing, a Mexican. He's just playing a dad who's married to a German. And it's just life, they're just representing dads and wives and husbands and fathers. And, and that's a beautiful thing that we're getting to that place where we can just identify with anybody, regardless of how they sound or what they look like. We're getting there. So I'm joyous to see the movement from when I started to now.
Did you have people you could look to, like other Indian filmmakers working in Hollywood?
Well, not Indian filmmakers. It was definitely Spike. It was definitely Spike Lee. And he knows this. The reason that I'm a filmmaker, it was his leading the way. He didn't look like anybody in Hollywood. He did it in a different way. No, he didn't ask for permission from the East Coast. I just followed his lead, essentially. And so he's super meaningful to me because I know if I didn't read that book of She's Gotta Have It, I know I'd be a doctor right now. So
what's the first scary movie you remember seeing, or the first movie where you were actually scared?
Well, seeing The Exorcist was just life-changing. It was one of those, I don't even know how my parents let me see this because they're so conservative, but 1 month I slept in my parents' room for one straight whole month. It was seriously traumatizing. But now I have that poster up in my office and I think I love it.
How do you find creative ways to scare people even today? Because you'd think we've seen it all. And do you have people you can kind of test this stuff on, like when you're editing?
For me, I just think of what causes me to feel surprised or unnerved. It's a gut feeling. It's something, I guess, the mischievous side of me tacks towards that. I guess since I was a little kid, I was always trying to scare my cousins. And, so I think this is just a professional extension of that instinct.
How would you try to scare them? And are they okay now?
No, they're all in therapy now, but I think, it was fun while it lasted. I was merciless, really just on the verge of unkind. I was on, like if a cousin comes from India and I'd convince him I was possessed, or we'd have two different remote controls for the TV, and we'd do the Ouija board, and the TV would keep turning on, and he'd be crying, and there would be it was awful. We did all kind, and then I did this whole serial killer thing. There's the serial killer loose and all this stuff. It was it was fun. It was fun.
Oh my God, how old were you when you were masterminding this?
I was about 14, 15, and they were all about 8 to 12. So it would be, that we'd always be get it right to the point where they would go, I'm going to tell my mom. And then we'd be like, no, I was just kidding. Don't tell them. So right when then the aunts and uncles would come and start yelling at me. So I was like, no, I was just kidding. Come, let's play something. Come on.
Do you think people expect you to be like, I don't know, kind of spooky, or are people surprised to learn you're funny?
They do say that. The mischievous is the common thing, the mischievous of, making you laugh in person or making you squirm in a movie theater is the same instinct. I think it's also, I'm really, bland, and I'm not really, it's not like, like I have all these stories about, these crazy things that have happened to me or that I did. It's kind of, like I read and play basketball and just kind of, do that. So when I write, I get to do these outrageous things. And I don't know if that's, me doing things I'm scared of on the page. Maybe that's the alter ego. Maybe, like Sasha Fierce is Beyonce's thing. Maybe I should come up with a name of when I'm like writing,
Which one of your movies would you least like to be trapped in?
Wow. That's a good question. I think The Village.
That was my answer.
Well, if I was in there, then I wouldn't know, right? It would be blissfully ignorant if I was in there. So maybe that isn't the best answer.
It speaks to the impact of Sixth Sense, but I always want to remind people you made 2 amazing movies before that. Do you have those films that maybe you feel didn't get the love that you want to call people's attention to?
Well, Sixth Sense was really the first released movie of mine. The movies before that were essentially in a couple theaters. I don't even know, call them regional releases. So I don't know what the term would be for 4 theaters or 5 theaters. But, when Sixth Sense was finally released, the concept that, wow, everyone and every country is seeing this movie. It was staggering to me. I couldn't grasp it. Even today, when a movie comes out, I can't grasp that somewhere in the world, someone's watching the movie in some form right now. It's crazy. So Sixth Sense really began my release of movies to the world and seeing them in movie theaters. And I was just, reflecting on it recently because of now the movie theaters opening back up again, and how grateful I am that Old is here and here we are, and people are buying tickets and going to come to the movie theaters to see yet another story. It's so amazing.
It's funny because people always say, like, how do you follow Sixth Sense? And my favorite movie is actually Unbreakable. So I say you follow it with an even better movie. Did you feel the pressure that the world was sort of like buzzing when you made movies after Sixth Sense to like sort of live up to that promise?
No, if I could go back, I would underline the differences between the movies more than we did. I would say, hey, Unbreakable is not scary. That's not what it is. It's strange. It's a comic book movie. At that time, it's like, what is that? What is it? What is even that? And the thing they were running from, the thing they were scared most is that it's about comic books. That's the thing that they were so worried about, that no one would come to see a movie about comic books. This is Disney, right? And it's like, would they know this many years later that they would bank the entire thing on that same thing that they were so scared to even talk about? That's the irony. For me, whatever it is, I go, hey, I love comic books. That's good enough for me. Just that's the movie I made. Just sell that. That's fine. Whether we win or lose, just sell that. I'm more in that mindset now of like, hey, this is whatever, The Visit. This is a mixture of comedy and horror. That's it. Don't shy away from it. Double down on it. That's what's different about it. Go for it. That's more my instinct now. The thing that I find interesting and unusual, just double down on that and we'll roll the dice.
And finally, I have to ask, what's up next, and can it be Labor of Love?
It could be, but it's not going to be, but it could be. No, I'm writing a new movie that's actually based on a novel, actually. So,
and I mean, this may sound like a silly question, but a novel someone else wrote, I take it?
Yeah, a novel someone else wrote.
Because, aside from, I guess, Last Airbender, I feel like Old is your first adaptation.
Well, yeah, I wrote Stuart Little, which if you count that, you read, that was an adaptation. So, yeah, no, this was one that was brought to me to produce, and then I was like, I was like, oh, I think I have an interesting idea for this. So we'll see how it's going, but it's very exciting. I have 2 ideas for movies after that are just my ideas. So
Is it true you wrote She's All That? I just heard this.
I did a rewrite on it. Yes. I'm romantic. I can be romantic.
Yeah.
See, I can be funny and romantic. You should tell that person that said, I can't believe he's funny. You say, she's all that. There you go.